So the international marketing plan basically has to be set up like you would a regular marketing plan. It has certain sections that have to be answered and certain strategic questions that have to be answered. So if you look at the profile, the timeline, and let me enlarge this a little bit just to give you a good understanding of what it is. The first section of your marketing plan has to be the executive summary, right? The executive summary sort of wraps everything up in a very nice, comprehensive understanding of what you're doing. So it explains your product, it explains what the product is, how your product benefits that target market. It talks about the country a little bit and why you're going to succeed there. It's going to talk about your budget, what you expect to make, what you expect, some type of profitabilities. So it's really going to have a good understanding of that marketplace. It takes every section that we're going to look at now, it takes every section and sort of wraps it up in those first 2 pages. The idea of the executive summary is that if I should take only the first 2 pages of the executive summary, I know exactly what your plan is, right? I could forget all the other pages, and just with those top 2 pages, I'll understand exactly what your plan is. Okay, make sense? So that's the important. Apparently, executives don't read the whole thing; they only read 2 pages. That's why we call it the executive summary. It shouldn't be more than 2 pages, maybe 2.5, but it should be more than 2 pages. You need to really cover each section in that part. So it's really it includes the international market share. It includes things like your sales numbers, your forecast. It includes things, and by the way, we're talking in U.S. dollars because we're going to base everything in U.S. dollars. Unless you're going from one international country to the other, you have to convert into your home country, not your target country. Whatever your home country is, where you're going from and into, okay, in those dollars. So in here, some key things to remember is why is a company targeting that international market? What makes that international market attractive to get into? That has to be explained here in that executive summary too. So that's really a big piece of this marketing plan, this strategic plan internationally. You can't do this section until you sort of lay out the other plan, the other pieces of the plan, because you're sort of pulling this together, right? So you've done this before. A few I know have done it before. That's basically the rhythm of how you would do it. All right. Okay, now let's talk about the product and the services and the description here. So you really, in this section, you really have to describe the product. Describe what the product is, what the features and benefits are for your target country. Why do you think this product makes sense in that country? You will have to look at competition, but let's focus on what your product brings to the table, what your product brings to that country. Why will people buy that product? And the most important thing is what makes you so different that someone in that country is going to love that product and appreciate that product. That sort of goes into this section here, okay? Then you sort of cover what we call the marketing mix, the four P's. Remember that? First is the product, then is the place, the promotion, right? And then the price. I always cover price last because that's the most important thing in the 4 P's. So we'll talk about the promotion, we'll talk about the place. Place is the distribution of the product, not the target country. So if you're taking a product from the US to Colombia, the place isn't Colombia. The place is how you're distributing the product in Colombia. Maybe you're using a master distributor. Maybe you're using retail. How are you going to distribute your product in that target market? That's what really the place is. Now let's talk about the target market. Here you really have to have a very detailed explanation of your target market, your demographics. So if you have a product that's going to be for adult males between the ages of 18 and 45, that needs to be explained. And you also need to show your research. What's the population of the adult males in that country? That's going to be important. How big is that marketplace that you're going for? Okay, so make sure you look up the statistics, and you can use some of that data reference I gave you to find that information. You want a big enough target where you're going to be successful. You don't want a small target. You want a big enough target where you're going to be successful. That's going to be key in understanding your target market. If you also know their likes and dislikes, their profile, their psychographics, here's where you can put them there too. Okay, that's a really good explanation of the target market. So research is really important here. The research is going to dictate how good of a strategy you have. That's going to be important so you understand what's happening in that marketplace. Okay, we talked about the macro environment already. That's the legal, the political, the economic, the social, cultural, and the technology that's happening in the industry. And also I want to put in the internet, how the internet affects your business. So make sure you have a good understanding of that in your plan. In my opinion, there's two important parts in an international strategic plan. One is the target market, because who you're going to target to, you want to make sure that there's enough people in the market that's going to buy your product at the price and promotion you're putting in there. The other is the macro environment, the legal, political, economic, social, cultural, technological, and internet piece of this. Because like I said, it doesn't matter how good your product is. If the laws change, if politics change, if the economy changes, no one's going to buy your product. It doesn't matter how good your strategy is, okay? Then there's something called the microenvironment. Now, in a domestic plan, the microenvironment is internal to how you see yourselves against the rest of the market. You have to do the same thing internationally. So you know your product. You don't know your product in that country yet because you're not in that country yet, right? So it's hard to really understand what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your product in that country. You can make some assumptions based on your competitive analysis. So if you have a like product in that target market, the first thing you should do, because you don't really understand your strengths and weaknesses yet, is pick your competitors out. At a minimum, you should have two competitors. I like to use three. Maybe find the biggest competitor, the smallest competitor, and then one in the middle. Look at their strengths, their weaknesses, their opportunities and threats, and then you can say, okay, here's what they do in this product or service. My company does this. And now you have sort of four views. You have your view, you have competitor one, competitor two, and competitor three. If you don't do three competitors, do at least one or two, because that'll give you a good benchmark of where you are. So have at least a strength or two on your competitors, a strength or two on yourself, and you'll know exactly what your opportunities are, your advantages and disadvantages in the marketplace. Okay, that's really the micro piece. And then we have to talk about price. So price is an important piece. You need to know some important things about price. Number one is your cost of goods sold. Where are you making the product? If you're going into an international market, where will the product be made? Will it be made in the U.S. and then you're going to import it there? Or will you make an investment in that country and make the product there, right? And then sell it within that country. Now that's a little more detail, but you have to figure that piece out. So what is your price? In order to get to your price, you need to know your cost of goods sold, your operational costs, okay? There are three C's to understanding price. One is the cost of goods sold. Two is the competition. And three is the customer, what the customer would pay. So you have to really understand your price. And this is where you explain your price in US dollars or target market dollars so that it makes sense. And then how does that price compare to what's in the marketplace? Is it low price, high price? Where is it in the competition? You really have to explain that piece too. And then the next P would be your place, your channels of distribution. So again, your channels of distribution have to be, are you going through a distributor? Is it a master distributor or is it an independent distributor? What does that look like? Are you going straight to a retailer? Are you doing business only online? If that's the case, are you shipping products from the U.S. or from your home country to your target country, or are you putting together a fulfillment center in that country to ship online. So you have to think that through and really explain that. And then the next P would be the promotion piece, the advertising, the marketing. Nothing happens without marketing, right? Nothing happens without marketing. So what is your promotional, what is your advertising plan to get that product into the market? You have to think that through. Then lastly, you covered everything. You covered the macro environment. You covered the macro, the micro environment. You covered the 4 Ps, product, place, price, promotion. You explained your target market. Now the last piece is the dollars and cents. You have to come up with a budget. How many units do you think you're going to sell in year 1, year 2, and year 3? That's basically a good understanding of what your business is going to look like. You have to estimate this, right? You really don't know the answer. But if you look at your competitive information, let's say, for example, one of your competitors sells a product similar to yours, and they sell $1 million a year. A good idea would be, if I can get 1% of the market or 2% of the market, I can sell, $20,000 or $200,000. What is that estimate that you're coming up with in your mind? It's a good idea to do single digits of the market. So if you find a competitor that sells $100, you should aim for 2%, 1 to 2% of that market in year 1, maybe 3 to 5% in year 2, and maybe 5 to 10% in year 3. That's with a lot of investment, a lot of spend. Sometimes it takes 5 years to get to 1%. But in our strategy, we should try to plan that out and come up with an idea based on the research that we've done for our target market. That's what we have to look at. So we'll go over the financial details on what that looks like, but basically it's a 3-year rollout. It's total revenue minus your COGS, minus your marketing, minus what we call your operational expenses. I like to lump them together in what I call SG&A. That will sort of give you your top line profit, and we'll cover this a little further, and then that'll give you your overall financials for 3 years, and you roll that out for 3 years. Okay. Now we roll it all together. We got all the sections answered, and now we go back and we create the executive summary.